do I need to do?
Y minus one
Now you
equals
divide,
negative 3x.
Now I'm going to divide my middle term by 2, and that's going to be what? What?
1.
1. Okay, so I have a 1. And what am I adding to the other side?
Negative.
the after you factored it, the middle one, the middle term squared, like the new C.
Okay, so what is our new C? If the middle term is a 2, what is 1 times 1? 1. Okay, but this is what you need to be careful.
Times negative
This says 3, negative 3 groups of these, so I have to multiply that C term by that negative 3. So I am actually going to have,
9.
so there's my negative 1, and it was negative 3 times that 1, right? So it was 3 times, because this says 3 times, forget the negative for the time being, but it's 3 times this quantity. So I need to remember to add in that 1 3 times, or in this case, a negative 3. Does that make sense? Okay. Everybody okay with that? Why I multiplied that C term by 3? Bradley, you with me? Okay, so then I'm combining that, and I have what, negative 4? And then when I move my my K term over, am I in HK form? Okay, so the H is going to be at
Negative 1.
negative 1, so I know that my vertex will be at negative 1,
4.
4, and does this parabola point up or down? Points down, we know it's negative, and does that 3, what is the only thing that that 3 is affecting?
The wideness.
The wideness, okay? So that's what the 3 controls. All right? So do you want to do one more of the ones with the numerical coefficient? I think that would be a good idea.
I don't like them.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay, this next problem, we have about 4 minutes left. I'm going to go through this one fairly quickly. This one is right out of your textbook. It's example number 2. It's a word problem, but I wanted to do this one with you.
Are we doing homework?
Yes, of course you are. Okay, so if you could listen up. Okay? All right. So this formula has to be about a rocket, and we know the force of gravity. We'll be pulling it down, and it's a negative 4.9, so is that meters or feet? Do you remember?
Meters.
Good, it was the effective meters. Okay, so this rocket was going up about 39.2 meters per second, and the height was at 170. All right, we've talked about this formula before. And so, what do you think I'm going to do with that 170? I'm going to subtract it. Okay, and then I look, and what happens here? I have a numerical coefficient, so I'm going to factor out the numerical coefficient. In this particular case, I'm going to just show you a little trick. If I know that I have a number, and one of the common coefficient is 2, can't I say, well, 8 divided by 2 will give me the other, the answer to that, the other factor? Okay, so that's all they did in this particular problem. They said, okay, well, the numerical coefficient that they were going to pull out was a negative 4.9. They factored out the negative 4.9 here, and then they said, well, 3.9.2 divided by 4.9, it happens in this particular case to come out evenly. Okay, so at this point, we've pulled out that numerical coefficient. Do I have my middle term? I really shouldn't have a parentheses here. I have the middle term. What happens once I find my middle term? Divide by 2. So I'm going to have negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4. So I'm going to have 16 minus a negative 4. What is a negative 4 times a negative 4?
16.
So what am I adding to the other side? I'm gonna add 16, but what do I have to remember to multiply that 16 by?
Negative 4.9.
The numerical coefficient. And that's where most people make their mistake. They forget to do that. So please write yourself a note. Don't forget to put that numerical coefficient on the other side. That's really important. Okay? So I'll give you your assignment. This one is in your book on page, I believe, 332. If you want to look at that, you may. And, let me see. All right. All right.
332?
Okay, so your homework is on page 333, and it is 2 through 4, number 9. These are pretty easy fill in the blank type things, and then 10 through 19. No,
Wait, which ones are from, Mike?
these are 2 through 4.